In King of the Hill it can take quite a long time to level up, so as you're doing so you'll have to go through a few weapons that you probably won't want to use to a high enough level to use your preferred weapons. Now as you're going through the levels you're probably going to wonder which gun and which scope is best at which level. If you go to the official King of the Hill website, I'll put a link in the description and there's a link in the grey bar on the top right of the screen as well. If you go to this website there's actually some useful information here, and one of the things is the King of the Hill wiki in the top right here. In the King of the Hill wiki there's a few links to some useful information, including the Discord, the changelogs, and of course vanilla equipment details. Now there's information on the vehicles, the weapons and the perks. We're interested in the vehicles for this video, we're interested in the weapons for this video, so let's click on weapons. And here you can see a list of every weapon in King of the Hill. This does include weapons that are in the non-infantry only version of King of the Hill as well. And yeah, if you look on here you can see what level you have to be, how much it costs to rent the gun, and how much it costs to buy the gun permanently. It also shows you how much ammo you get with and without the ammo perk. It's extremely useful information. If you scroll down you can see there's information on the launchers, information on the pistols, information on the scopes as well. And if you look at the information on the scopes, it says how many additional levels you need to unlock each scope. I didn't realise they actually did it like this until I saw this website. I thought it was different numbers depending on the weapon itself, but no. For example, the AMS, if you want the AMS, which is my favourite scope in the game, you will need to be 20 levels higher than the level you need to be to actually unlock the weapon itself. Now that's quite a big difference for something like the AMS, but there's a lot of other good sites that you can use as well that you don't have to be quite so high level for. So when you first start out you can have the TRG. I'd actually stick with the TRG until level 4. At level 4 you can unlock the Mark 20, which is my preferred 5.56 out of the TRG and the Mark 20. I would not recommend permanently buying the Mark 20 though. I would recommend saving your money to permanently buy other guns. Probably ones with a high caliber. Generally I recommend a high caliber in King of the Hill, as people are wearing like Arma and stuff like that. It can definitely help to penetrate that armor with some higher caliber weapons. You need to be at least +1 level to have any kind of scope at all whatsoever on any of the guns, and to start with you're left with iron sights only. Generally iron sights not too good. They're okay for like pinpoint accuracy up to a certain degree if your target's not moving that much, but a lot of close combat engagements you're going to be better off with a red dot or a holographic. The first optic that you unlock for any gun you only need to be +1 level, the Mark 17 holo sight. The reason that you'd want a red dot or a holographic sight over the iron sight is mostly because, like, say I'm shooting at that bush there, you know, I've got like the whole bush and stuff that's below and above it in my field of view. Whereas let's say I take the scope off and look at it through the iron sight, you know, anything below that bush I can't see, so it's all blocked by my view of it, it's blocked by the gun itself. That may not seem like too much of an issue, but in the heat of a battle, especially in close quarters battle, that makes a hell of a lot of difference, being able to see your target much more clearly. If we have a look at some of the other close range sights, here we have the ACO. ACO is unlockable at level 2. Again, you can see this is much better than an iron sight where you've got a much clearer view of what's on the battlefield. This blocks off perhaps a little bit less than the Mark 17 holo sight that I was looking at a minute ago, and it does have quite a nice reticule on it with the red dot and the circle. Now the outer circle actually makes it much easier to shoot targets very quickly at very close range. It's all about like target acquisition. You can like shoot someone much quicker than if you had just the red dot in the middle. Yeah, +4 levels you unlock the MRCO. This does actually have 2 times magnification. There you can see it says on the inventory screen there. Now this scope, I actually never use this. I don't really like it too much. It's not too bad, but it takes up quite a lot of the screen, and I'd much rather use a close range optic until I can unlock the RCO, which can be switched between a 2 times and a red dot sight. Again, personal preference. You may actually like using this scope. It depends a lot on like what type of gun you got and how you play and stuff like that. Alright, at +5 levels you can equip the gun with an MOS sight. Now the MOS sight is not too bad actually, because it's got the close range optic on the sight, but you can switch between that and long range optic. It's actually 5 times. You switch between 2.5 to 5 times by zooming in and out with that optic. And that's actually not too bad either. I usually use this when I've unlocked it. only for level 5 though, so don't permanently buy it. I actually usually use the RCO just because it's got the better red dot, better close range optic. It's probably still the better of both worlds, but if you're going to use a gun mostly for long range engagements and you're still only like +5 levels, this is one that you definitely want to consider actually. At +6 levels you unlock the RCO scope, and generally I will switch to this optic as soon as it's available for any particular gun. You can see still got a nice useful red dot, and you can actually switch to the zoomed optic. The red dot is not as good as if you're using just a normal red dot, but I find in a game mode like King of the Hill it's just really useful to be able to switch between the two optics. And the 2x optic, you know, it's good for like if there was someone hiding behind that bush there, you know, with the red dot there is so hard to see, but with that optic it'd just be that little bit easier to see, so you can make out the wall behind the bush there. But with the red dot, the wall's almost invisible. You can see that if there was someone lying prone there or even kneeling, they'd be pretty hard to see. Now here is the ARCO. It's a lot like the RCO. It's got a close range red dot and can be switched to a longer range optic as well, although this is only a 2x optic. Now, as I say, there's really not a lot between this and the RCO. That's pretty much down to personal preference. This does feel like a more sort of modern sight. I think some people would probably prefer the red dot, but personally I prefer the RCO, but as I was saying, there's really not a lot in it. Okay, now we have the ERCO. Again, almost identical to the RCO and the ARCO. Close range red dot. I actually prefer the red dot on this one to the ARCO. And not a bad long range either. Again, cannot be zoomed in and out. It's 2x. And again, a bit more modern looking than the RCO. I do actually use this one from time to time, but sometimes stick with the RCO just because I'm more familiar with it, and because you unlock it at an earlier level, of course. By the time you're at this level, +8 for the ERCO, you've got quite a good choice of scopes, but still not quite into that full long-range optic yet. But all the other optics from +9 levels onwards, they're all optics you require the marksman perk for. The only one of those optics I'd ever put on an assault rifle is the DMS. Now the DMS has a close range optic with a chevron type crosshair. It does actually take a little bit of getting used to, but I actually quite like the chevron after I got used to it. If I was trying to aim at that, say that rabbit there, you just put the very tip of the chevron on the rabbit, and it's only if, you know, if the bullet was falling short, you'd move up a bit to more like that sort of height. But yeah, the main thing with this sight is it's also switchable to a long range sight, which zooms between 2 to 4 times magnification, and you can see 4 times is getting pretty serious there. Now in King of the Hill, you know, your engagements range between very close range to up to 200 meters and sometimes beyond, and I like to use this scope as it gives me the best of both worlds. Now as far as assault rifle goes, I probably wouldn't put anything more with more magnification than the DMS on it. It's just unnecessary for the assault rifles in my opinion. And the other scopes you can unlock, the clear, the LRPS and the AMS, I'd actually leave those just for longer range weapons. At level 8 you unlock the SPAR 16, which is, the SPAR 16 is probably my favourite 5.56 in the game, and I did use that for a while. However, when you get to level 12, that's when you can unlock the first 6.5mm caliber weapon, and that would be the Katiba. And then the next unlock that you'd want to consider after the Katiba is the MX at level 18, so between 12 and 18 that could potentially take a little while, so you could be using the Katiba for a little while. Again, I probably would not perma-buy the Katiba, as there's another 6.5mm gun that I would prefer, and I'll go over that one in a minute. With the Katiba being unlockable at level 12, if you actually go up to level 17, then you can put an MOS scope on the Katiba. And you actually have to be level 18 before you can put an RCO scope on there. But yeah, level 18 you can put an RCO on the Katiba, although at level 18 you can also unlock the MX. Although probably I'd stay with the Katiba and the RCO at level 18. With the MX I'd probably wait until I was a slightly higher level before I started using the MX. I did actually use the MX quite a lot myself, and I used my one free gun unlock on the MX. Now if you haven't already used it, you will get to unlock one gun for free. You can use that on launchers, but I did actually use my perma unlock on the MX, although thinking about it now I should have saved it for the Type 115 or perhaps the AK-12. I'd probably recommend using your free unlock on the Type 115, though you could use it on an earlier gun. Thing is with the free unlock is I'd recommend using the free unlock earlier in your leveling rather than later, because in the earlier stages you've got no equipment, you've got no perks, and you've only got access to lower caliber weapons, so it's much more difficult to earn money. However, at level 20, which is not too far from 18, it won't take you too long to get from 18 to 20, at 20 you can access the AKM-762. Now, being a 7.62 weapon, this is extremely good. When you're level 20, you don't have much access to many guns of that caliber. I believe this is the only 7.62 you can unlock at level 20. And again, with the high caliber, being able to penetrate the armor, that makes it very useful. However, the AKM is iron sights only, as far as I'm aware. You can't put any kind of optic on it or anything like that. So that's kind of limiting. However, if you're really only concerned with CQB fighting, you know, you're going in really close, staying in the priority area or whatever, then it's probably not a bad choice. It's just if you've got to hit anyone at 200 meters or further, it's a little bit tricky with those iron sights. But yeah, at 24 with the Type 115, that although it's a 6.5mm, it has extremely low recoil for a 6.5mm caliber gun. And it also has the underbarrel 50, which is extremely useful for taking out vehicles and killing people with one shot. Although it doesn't have a huge range on it for that type of caliber, the underbarrel 50. But still, in King of the Hill, it's extremely useful. And I'd actually say, due to the low recoil and extremely high rate of fire of the Type 115, it actually makes the gun a bit more useful than any other 6.5mm, and in fact makes it as useful as some 7.62 weapons in my opinion. The Type 115 is actually one of my preferred weapons in King of the Hill, and even now at level 75 or whatever I am, Type 115 is a gun I use a lot. And also, there's not much else you can unlock until you get to level 34. Without using a machine gun or a marksman perk anyway. So yeah, quite a big gap between the Type 115 at level 24 and the AK-12 at level 34. But that big gap means that it's worth considering the Type 115 and, you know, with an MOS or an RCO scope if you want to shoot people at a bit of range. That's probably the gun I'd recommend using your free unlock on, if you can wait that long. If you can't wait until level 24 before using the free unlock, you want to start saving money sooner, which would be a good idea, especially if you don't play that often, then yeah, possibly the Katiba, possibly the MX, possibly the AKM if you really like that weapon. Personally, I used my free unlock on the MX, although thinking about it now, yeah, I would have preferred to have used it on the Type 115, possibly the AK-12. But yeah, as I was saying, at level 34 you unlock the AK-12, which is an extremely good assault rifle. And if you use the explosives perk with it, it actually has an underbarrel grenade launcher. Single shot underbarrel grenade launcher, unlike the MX, which can you can fire off 3 shots on the underbarrel grenade launcher on the MX before having to reload the grenade rounds. But still, in King of the Hill, grenade rounds are extremely useful, and you can actually take vehicles out with them if you can land a shot with it. Killed a couple of helicopters with grenade launchers from the AK-12, and very satisfying it was. That's about it for the main assault weapons, without taking into consideration the machine gunner or the marksman perk. There's quite a few other guns in the list there, although those are the ones that I'd consider myself for King of the Hill. But yeah, anyway, I hope you find that useful. Check out the website yourself, there's a lot of useful information on there. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. Thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, hopefully I'll see you next time. Take it easy.